Okay, now put this over there and put it back on the table, and I'll tell you which way to go. That's it. Now, okay, turn it more that way. Yeah, and slide it over there. More. Bring it closer to here. A little closer. Yeah, turn it more that way.
Slow, steady.
Other way. Keep going. I think more that way. Yeah, more that way. About a foot more that way. A little more that way. Okay, now bring it a little closer in. Perfect. Now, I think we're good.
That's good.
I think we're good. Perfect.
Good?
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
What are you opening with?
What are we opening with? We're live. Here we go. Okay. It's going to be. It's EGE.
Hey kids, what time is it?
It's time for Gezintahait Street, baby!
It is time for Gezintahait Street. And the story for tonight is called Mishnah, Neshama, Bris, and Bar Mitzvah. The previous Rebbe told that his father's 12th birthday fell on Shabbat. The next day, his father, the Rebbe Miraj, canceled private audiences for the Hasidim, but he called in 3 elder Hasidim into his office. When they entered, they saw his son, the Rebbe Rashab, sitting with his father. The Rebbe Miraj told them, "Today is a day of celebration for me. My son, the Rashab, has merited to learn by heart all 6 sedras of the Mishnah." The Miraj said a Hasidic discourse means a mimer, and then he told a story from each of the Rebbes, including one about himself, very unusual. The Alter Rebbe's story concerns the bris of his son Moshe. So the Alter Rebbe had a son Moshe, and at the bris of Moshe, and the Alter Rebbe was known to be very organized and punctual. The day of the bris, morning prayers were completed by 7 o'clock in the morning. Nevertheless, by noontime, the circumcision had not begun. So everybody's wondering what's going on. In mid-afternoon, a Jew entered the shul with a sack on his shoulder and his staff in his hand. He was dressed in white, and he wore a sheepskin vest, even though it was summertime. The Alter Rebbe came out of his room and said, Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Bezalel. The Alter Rebbe then began the ceremony, giving the visitor the honor of placing the baby on the chair of Eliyahu and holding the baby on his lap. He gave him the honor of being sandwiched during the circumcision. The Alter Rebbe also allowed Rabbi Bezalel to dip his finger in the blessing wine to let the baby have a taste of the wine. After the bris, the Hasidim asked their Rebbe, who is this honored guest? They were told, that's Bezalel the shepherd, Bezalel HaRoeh. And after the guest departed, the Hasidim asked Alter Rebbe for details, and he answered, he really has been a shepherd for the last 40 years in a small town near Spencer. Nevertheless, he has a commanding knowledge of the whole Babylonian Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud, the Rambam, and the Sifri, and even more.
Is that it? Oh, no, just kidding.
In addition, he knows the entire Mishnayos by heart, with which his soul shines. The word Mishnah contains the same letters as the word Neshama. So the word Mishnah contains the letters as the word for the soul. Our Rebbe explains, the Shulchan Aruch of the Alter Rebbe tells us a Jew's godly soul enters at his bris, and this process becomes completed at the bar mitzvah. With this, we can understand the connection of a bris, that's the story he told about the Alter Rebbe, to the Rebbe Rashab's 12th birthday, which began the year of preparation for his bar mitzvah. Another link is that the story mentions knowing the complete set of Mishnayos by heart, which the young Rashab had accomplished, and was the reason for the Farbrengen that day. And furthermore, this story is connected to all the Rebbes. The Rebbe Marash told the story of each Rebbe, including one about himself. And the Rashab, who would later succeed his father as Rebbe, participated in that special Farbrengen. The previous Rebbe related the story, and our Rebbe passed it on to us. So you have all the way from the Alter Rebbe. I don't think I mentioned the Semek Tzedek, but the Alter Rebbe told the story about the Semek Tzedek for sure. And this story teaches us the greatness of the mitzvah of circumcision, which contains two facets. A new baby is born completely pure and without sin, like a tzaddik, like a righteous person. Two, nevertheless, during the circumcision, we remove the coarse covering, and this indicates the service of a returnee of a Baal Tshuva. Eliyahu the prophet comes to every bris. He's also the one to announce the coming of Mashiach. When the two opposite forms of service, the service of a tzaddik and the service of a Baal Tshuva, will be unified, when Mashiach comes, like our sages say, Mashiach will bring the tzaddikim to Tshuva. We want Mashiach now. So I want to ask everybody that it's a very good idea to learn a Mishnah by heart. You can find them easily in English. For example, Pirkei Avos is Mishnah. Take one of the Pirkei Avos, a short one, and learn it by heart. It's worth knowing. And say it when you walk down the street. It will make your soul shine. What do we have?
Yeah, I do have a nigga in honor of all this Torah learning you've been discussing. In the merits thereof.
Oh, that's a Mishnah, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a pasuk in the Torah.
Huh?
It's a pasuk in the Torah.
That's not a mitzvah.
No, it's not from the Torah itself. Torah, Torah, Tziva, Lanu Meishe, Torah, Torah, Tziva, Lanu Meishe. Torah, Torah, Tziva, Lanu Meishe, Torah, Torah, Tziva, Lanu Meishe. Torah, Tziva, Torah, Tziva, Lanu Meishe. Hey, Moshe, Kei, Lasakei, Torah, Tziva, Torah, Tziva, Lanu Meishe. Hey, Moshe, Kei, Lasakei. Hey,
Wait, isn't this the month that every day we're supposed to get happier and happier?
That's the one.
Okay, shit. How
The
many
truth
days?
is,
How many days are we
Moshe,
in
I
this?
just want, I don't want to break it to you, but by Chabad Chassidus, every month is the month that we get happier and happier.
That's what I like about the month.
Yeah, until we get to Yom Kippur, and then it's the ultimate.
Boy, the ultimate happiness.
What the Tzemach Tzedek, I think, asked his grandfather, or the Rebbe Marash asked his Tzemach, I think it was Tzemach Tzedek asked his grandfather, after Yom Kippur, he said, after all, we just did tshuva and everything is good and forgiven and we're all good, so what do we do now? And he told him, now you do tshuva. How do you do tshuva? By being happy. Okay, this week there have been a lot of proliferation of siyums of the Rambam. The Rambam is a magnum opus. What happened? We used to have the Babylonian Talmud. And in the Babylonian Talmud,
Tzalel, if I could ask you for a translation of a Yiddish word you use, what's a magnum opus?
A masterpiece.
yeah, a masterpiece. But
What you're known for.
But it's huge. It's a huge
Like
work.
the life's work or something like this kind of thing.
Anyway, it's big. And
Big stuff.
It's like a sergeant.
Big stuff.
we had the Babylonian Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud has various opinions of how we should conduct ourselves, according to Jewish law, according to what Hashem wants. And there's opinions of this rabbi and opinions of that rabbi. And we, in the old days, we used to know how to find out what the actual opinion of Hashem, what he wanted, which opinion he wanted us to go by. And after a while, people were not able to learn the true opinion from the different opinions. Therefore, the Rambam came and put it down in the book. The whole Talmud in a clear and precise way that we can understand. And the Rebbe told us that we should all go through that book, either throughout 1 year, and we can do it in 1 year by doing 3 chapters a day, or throughout 3 years by doing 1 chapter, or through 1 year of learning the list of the Rambam's mitzvahs, 3 mitzvahs every day. So the Rambam was the first to index the entire body of the oral law and compile it in a logical and systematic fashion. He even included laws that will only be relevant in the time of Mashiach, like the laws of tithing and the Jubilee year, and the laws of the temple service. We don't have the temple now, but he gave us the laws of the temple service because they will be in effect when Mashiach comes, because we'll have our temple back. And to this very day, the Mishnah Torah, that's the name of the Rambam's book, remains the only work that contains the whole body of Jewish law. And by following the daily Rambam cycle, every individual has the ability, even if you only do the mitzvahs, 3 mitzvahs a day, and it takes you a year, and it's contained in a book, everybody has the ability to study the entire body of Jewish law, a goal otherwise not within the reach of most people. Like we said, those capable do 3 chapters a day and finish in a year. Others do 1 chapter a day and finish in 3 years. And if that's too much, the Rebbe said a third way, by learning daily about the same commandments that are discussed in the 3 chapters a day. So it's a lot shorter and easier. It takes just a few minutes a day. And in that way you go through all 613 mitzvahs in 1 year. So if you imagine 3 chapters a day for a year incorporates all 14 individual books. And this is not a real siyum, because a real siyum is by somebody who went through it. And we just finished the Rambam, but it was the people who are doing 3 chapters a day. But we can learn a lot from it, and we'll try to do something like a siyum. And the last chapter of the Rambam, the very end of the 14 books, that's what a siyum means. You speak about and explain about the end of the book.
It's the chapter on the kings, the laws for kings, right?
Correct. And the last halacha is, in that time, in the time of Mashiach, there will be neither famine, nor war, nor envy, nor competition. For all good will flow in abundance, and all delights will be freely available as the dust of the ground. And those say what that means, the dust of the ground, because it will have physicality will have no value to us, because the occupation of the entire world will be solely to know God. Therefore, the Jews will be great sages and know the hidden matters. This is still part of the Rambam. We will grasp the knowledge of our Creator according to the full extent of human potential. Like the prophet Isaiah says, the world will be filled with the knowledge of God as the waters cover the ocean bed. Now, like it's explained in Chassidus, that's the end of the Rambam. Like it's explained in Chassidus, the end is wedged in the beginning, and the beginning is wedged in the end. So the end of the Rambam, what we just said, is wedged in the beginning of the Rambam. So the end is that everyone will pursue knowledge of God. And the beginning of the Rambam says, he says the first commandment that he describes in his book of law is, it is the foundation of foundations and the pillar of wisdom to know God. So the end chapter said we'll be pursuing knowledge of God. Now the Rambam says that it is the foundation of the whole Torah to know God. So it ends with knowing and it begins with knowing. So the end of the Rambam is about knowledge of God. And in the beginning, the first law of the Rambam says the first mitzvah is to know there is a first cause who runs the worlds and creates the worlds and all their hosts in the heavens and the earth. There's a short, interesting passage in the Zohar, Jewish mysticism, which also speaks about the commandment to know God. Should we do a niggun?
It's not a bad idea.
These guys know God through the tunes.
Oh. Hey,
Okay, so here is the short, interesting passage from the Zohar that also talks about to know God. The Zohar says, the following mitzvah is the primordial mitzvah, prime being first, which precedes all, means precedes all the mitzvahs. And it is not only the primordial mitzvah, it is the first primordial of all mitzvahs. And what is that mitzvah?
What is that mitzvah?
Anybody?
To
Gimel
know
Aleph?
Hashem, to fear Him, to believe in
To
Him.
know Hashem.
No, Lodas.
That's what the Zohar says. To know Hashem. That's the first mitzvah. The primordial mitzvah. To know there's a God in general. But what does in general mean? What do you mean to know there's a God in general? The Zohar continues and expands. In general means to know there is one above, in charge, who runs the world and creates all worlds, everything that exists, the heaven and the earth, and all their hosts. And that's what the Zohar means when it uses the term in general. meaning to know all the details of how Hashem works. Is to know all the details of the one above and how he works. And what he does. And that's what general means. It's a general principle which includes many details of the subject. And that subject of study here is to bring a person to a knowledge of God. And that thing that we study, those details in that general to know God, is called the chain of descent of the world, through which the infinite connects to us limited creatures, in general, an inclusion of all particular levels. And our Zohar lays out those details that are contained in the general principle. The commandment to know there's a God, and even more to know him, as we will see. Really, the Rambam says the first law is to know that there is a God who creates everything. But we're going to find out the commandment is more than that. The commandment is that we should know God. And the Zohar continues, to know there is a master on high, who's the boss of the world, who creates all worlds, heaven and earth and all their hosts. And that's what it means to know in general, all inclusive of all the details. And we'll get back to it, but the word for in general in Hebrew is klal, chaf lamed lamed, and we'll get back to it. So we're supposed to know in general the general thing that includes all these details. Now the Rebbe's father, Rebbe Leibig, explains the Zohar in detail, according to the chain of descent of the world, as manifest through the spheros. He analyzes the statement of the Zohar in detail. The Zohar starts, it's the primordial mitzvah is to know. And then the Zohar continues, talking about the same mitzvah, to know, it says not the primordial mitzvah, but the first mitzvah. So the Zohar starts out, the primordial mitzvah is to know. And then it says the first mitzvah, and then it says primordial again, is to know. It could have just said the primordial mitzvah is to know God. Why did it have to add the first primordial mitzvah is to know God? Okay, Gimel Aleph, you got the question?
Yeah, it sounds redundant.
It looks redundant. That's the question. Like you just said, over here it says superfluous, which is the same as redundant. And the explanation, the first phrase, primordial, indicates the supernal level of Kesser called the godly crown, which is divine delight and desire for the mitzvah. That's Hashem's crown. The crown symbolizes Hashem's delight and desire for the mitzvah to know him. The second phrase, where it says it's the first, indicates chachma, wisdom. And then after it cites primordial again, which indicates bina. You okay with that, Leib? First we Kesser, that's the primordial. Then the first is chachma. And then the next primordial means bina. So you have Kesser, chachma, and bina. That you be aware of in order to know God. And that's similar to the name when Moses said, "What will I tell the Jews your name is?" And what did Hashem answer? Anybody? I will be what I will be. The first I will be is the level of Kesser, the godly crown. His pleasure and desire. And then comes the first, Asher, which is Chachma. I will be what? What is Chachma? And then the second I will be is Bina. So there you have Kesser, Chachma, and Bina in the Seder Sasa. Then you have, what comes after that? The primordial, then the first, then the primordial, Kesser, Chachma, and Bina. What comes after that? To know, which is the level of Das in the Seder Sasa. Kesser, Chachma, Bina, and Das. So now we can understand the Zohar's explanation of the details included in the general mitzvah of knowing God. To know that, this is what the Zohar again, to know there's a master on high, who's boss of the world, that will be the godly pleasure and the godly desire for the world, who creates all worlds, heaven and earth, and all their hosts. And that's what it means in general, all-inclusive details in general. So it starts with the master of the world, and the master indicates Atik Yomen, the godly pleasure in having a world, called the Holy Ancient One, and it is included in Malchus of Ak, and Ak is the first mention of the primordial man. He's called Adam Kadmon. Kadmon is what the Zohar uses for what I'm translating as primordial. And it's Malchus of Ak, which indicates he's the king. And the king is the boss of the world. And then he creates the world. That's the level of wisdom, Chachma. How does he do it? Through Bina. So the primordial mitzvah, and the first mitzvah, and the primordial mitzvah, Kesser, Chachma, and Bina, is to know, Das. And through that can be the creation. And in both statements, it uses the words mitzvahs, and it uses the word mitzvahs plural. And it uses the word mitzvahs plural twice. And that's very significant. The first primordial, which we said is Kesser, the crown, and then the first, Chachma, and then again, primordial Bina. The mitzvahs, plural, indicates that there are 620 mitzvahs. Are you aware of that, Moshe? You knew there were 620 mitzvahs?
There's an extra 7, bonus 7.
Right, correct. There are 7 mitzvahs of the rabbi. So the word Kesser, according to the Hebrew alphabet, adds up to 620. And the source of the mitzvahs is Kesser, Hashem's pleasure and desire in those mitzvahs. And afterwards, it indicates the source in Chachma and Bina, the first one and the second primordial. Like it says in another place, the mitzvahs are your Chachma and Bina. So in general, in Zohar includes all the details of the mitzvah of knowing. So the word in general here really means a bunch of details. It starts with the master, Atik, the Holy Ancient One, which is included in Malchus of Ak. I'm repeating myself. And the creation comes through Chachma and Bina. And afterwards, after the creation, you have heaven and earth, and heaven and earth is there Amphin and Malchus. Let's see how it works with the famous ineffable name, the godly name, Abaya. The Yud is symbolic of Chachma. And on top of the Yud, there's a little thorn going up, which is symbolic of the crown. And the hay symbolizes Bina. So you have the crown, that's the thorn going up. You have of the primordial mitzvahs to know God, that indicated by the crown. And then you have the Yud, which is the first, which is Chachma. And then you have the Hay, which is the next priority, which is called primordial, which is called Bina. Why is Bina called a primordial? Because from it comes out the heaven, which is above, and the earth, the Zer Anpin is above, and the earth, which is Malchus. And it all comes down through the Seder Stav, so it's symbolized by the name Havaya. Are you okay with this, Gimel Aleph?
Yeah.
Very
Good.
elegant.
Extremely elegant with Tzvi.
So then he creates the heaven and earth. So what's all their hosts? All their hosts indicate the three worlds which appear separate from him. Bria, Yetzirah, and Nasiya. All the creations that we have any idea about. They feel separate from Hashem. And all of this is to know that there's a God. This knowledge stands between and connects every level down through the Vav and the Hay, Zer Anpin and Malchus, heaven and earth, all the way through Bria, Yetzirah, and Nasiya, the created world, which are brought into being from the world of Atzilus. And understanding all this accomplishes the primordial mitzvah of knowing God, at least at this point, knowing the existence of God. And that's what it means in general. All-inclusive really means to know the whole Seder, the chain of descent of the world. From the highest of all levels, the godly crown, until the lowest level of our physical world of action. And it's all hinted in the word in general. See, this word klal, chaf lamed lamed, is the word in general. And that whole thing is hinted in that word. Let's see how. The chaf indicates keser and chacham. You spell keser, the crown, like in English, starting with a chaf. So how does it symbolize chachma also? Because chachma is a yud, which is spelled yud vav dalet, which is 10 and 10, and adds up to 20, and the letter chaf is in the Hebrew alphabet is manifest the number 20.
But the crown of the Yud is also part of the Yud.
Yeah, well, it connects from the crown to Hashem's desire, connects to Hashem's wisdom.
Which is all represented in that one letter.
Yeah, that's all in the chaf.
It's all
Then
in the Yud of Yud Kei Vav Kei.
the keser and the chachma is included in the yud, like I showed, but in this, what we're learning,
Right, it's in the
he's explaining the inclusion, how it works in the word klal. So the chaf includes the crown and the godly wisdom, and the first lamed is symbolic of Bina, Zer Anpin, and Malchus. Bina being the hay, Zer Anpin the Vav, and Malchus the hay. See, there's 3 letters. And a lamed indicates 30. So each one of those 3 includes 10 in it. And then you have all their hosts. What are all their hosts? It's the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Nasiya, which is 3, which includes 30. A lamed is 30, which includes 3 times 10. So you have in the word klal, that's what the Zohar says, to know in general all these details. The crown, the chachma, Bina, Zer Anpin, and Malchus, Bina, the mother that creates the heaven and the earth, those 3 things. And then how Atzilus creates Bria, Yetzirah, and Nesiah, all of their hosts. You okay with that, Lee?
Yeah.
Okay.
I,
You go ahead.
I'm not sure how that is all represented by the letter Lamed.
Lamed, Bina, Zer Amt, and Amalch.
But how does that, none of those words involve, I mean, the Chaf for Kesser in Chachma makes sense.
Okay.
Because it's a letter that matches up.
Again, Lamed
But Lamed
is
doesn't
30,
match up.
which means 3.
Right.
Because each one of the 3 has 10 in it.
All right, so it's only the Gematria that's,
Yeah.
okay. That's,
Bina, Zer Amt, and Amalch. Okay? The mother, the son, and the daughter are all included in the Lamed.
okay.
And then the other Lamed is 3 for the 3 separate worlds, Bria, Yetzirah, and Nesiah, all of their hosts.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so when the Zohar says in general, it has all the details in mind, even in the fact that it's using the word in general. And the mitzvah is to know in general. That's what the Zohar says. And it means the whole chain of descent of the worlds is included in knowing in general. The Alter Rebbe writes in a book of Tanya called the Holy Letters that the knowledge, remember we're talking about the mitzvah of knowing, of the existence, they translate it, they mean the existence that has thousands, but I want to translate it, it means the knowing of the existence of Hashem. I think that's what the Alter Rebbe means. Is also a lofty and exalted mitzvah. To know that chain of descent in order to know God. Indeed, it outweighs all of the other mitzvahs, and it outweighs the study of the laws of the Torah. Because like our Zohar says, it's the primordial and the first mitzvah. Thus it's written, know this day that the Lord is God, that Hashem is Elohim, using the word to know. Know the God of your father. Know there is an obligation to attain a knowledge or apprehension of divinity. And the way it's accomplished is through these details that we have described. You guys, you want to do a nigga?
Yeah. We're going to do a joke song. Which one?
What's the third one? Is Merciful King, the Abishter. Okay.
No, the third one is, the way I've done it lately is Merciful King.
And then, Merciful King, and then
The
Abishter.
second one is,
If the mikvah is not washed.
it's not
But the mikvah is not
mashke when I dive.
washed. Sum it up.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll give it a try.
And then the fourth one is, I ain't lying.
Okay, Abishter. If the mikvah was master and I was a duck, swim to the bottom and drink my way up. Tell me how long do I have to wait? Can I get my shliach now, or must I hesitate? But the mikvah's not mashke and I'm not a duck. I swam to the bottom, I was swimming up. Tell me how long do I have to wait? Can I get my shliach now, or must I hesitate? Merciful King, all the work is done. Don't you think it's time we could have some fun? Tell me how long do I have to wait? Can I get my shliach now, or must I hesitate? Abishter, I ain't lying. The people down here, they're sick, they're dying. Tell me how long do I have to wait? Can I get my shliach now, or must I hesitate?
Zohar about the mitzvah of knowing God is because we want to connect the end of the Rambam to the beginning of the Rambam. And the Rebbe says this amazing thing, that the beginning of the Rambam that this Zohar that we just said is the source of the first law of the first book of the Rambam. The beginning of the Rambam is a Hebrew rendition of the Aramaic of that Zohar that we just learned. The very words that start his monumental work are a Hebrew rendition of our Zohar. Is that amazing? That's amazing, right? The beginning of the Rambam, how does he call it? The foundation of foundations. And the pillar of wisdom is to know Hashem. Our Zohar said the primordial mitzvah, the foundation of foundations, and the pillar of wisdom. The first one, the pillar of wisdom, is to know Hashem.
But didn't you say the Rambam is an entire explanation of the Zohar?
I didn't say that, but I said that the beginning of the Rambam is a Hebrew rendition of that Zohar that we just learned.
Okay.
He
You
said,
No, it's the whole thing. The whole thing.
the entire
Well, essentially, the whole
no,
thing
the
is
Rambam tells you all the laws in the whole Gemara.
Right. Okay.
But the beginning, the first law of the
It's
Rambam,
like the Zohar.
not just like it, the Rebbe said it's an actual, basically a translation in Hebrew of that Aramaic. And he says, the mitzvah is to know there's a God. The primordial mitzvah of mitzvahs, like our Zohar said. And that's what the Rambam said, the foundation of foundations. Like it says, the Pekudi HaPekudim, the primordial mitzvah. And the pillar of wisdom is to know that he is the existence that brings out all existence. And he is the boss and the creator of the world, which in our Zohar we said was the level of the godly crown. Our Rebbe points out that besides the first mitzvah is to know Hashem in our Zohar, meaning to know the existence of Hashem in himself, which is higher than any mitzvah. The Rambam says the mitzvah is to know that there's a first cause, Hashem. The Rebbe said it's to know Hashem himself, which Hashem himself is higher than any mitzvah. And that's why this mitzvah is in Parshas V'era, which is before we got the Torah. To tell you that this knowing of God that's discussed is a knowing of Hashem that's higher than mitzvahs altogether. To know Hashem for himself, which is a level of godliness higher than mitzvahs, even than the first primordial mitzvah to know him. And it becomes more clear, our Rebbe says, from what Red Leivik explained from the Zohar, that primordial is Kesser, the godly pleasure and desire for the creation. Then after it says first, mitzvah, which indicates chachma, wisdom. And then the primordial again, bina. Like the name, I will be what I will be. Ekia. So it's Hashem saying that name. So that Seder Istashel is Kesser, Chachma, and Bina is included in that name. And it's Hashem that's saying that name, meaning that he's the one that we will get to know. So I will be, that indicates Kesser. That which Asher, which means Chachma, and then will be, which means Bima. And that name is the source of the Rambam. He is the first existence, the Rambam says. The level of I will be, the first I will be. And from his existence is generated every existence. He's an existence that does not have an existence. It's a nothing type existence that brings out all seemingly separate existences which only exist from his true existence. Like the Zohar says, the mitzvah is to know is a primordial mitzvah. It's not just the knowing that Hashem exists, which is higher and precedes any mitzvah, even the mitzvah to know him, which consists of knowing the details that we spoke about, which even though it's one of the mitzvahs, it's the foundation and pillar of all the mitzvahs, on which they stand, on which the whole building stands, on that mitzvah of knowing God. Besides the fact that it is the general mitzvah in which includes the whole structure, like Rebbe explains, the details of the Hebrew word for general, klal, which includes the whole chain of the seven of the world. The mitzvah to know Hashem is really the first mitzvah of the Ten Commandments. What's the first mitzvah of the Ten Commandments?
I'm your God.
Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Hashem wants us to know that He's our God. Thank you, ladies. I am Lord your God. And that includes all the positive and negative commandments. And the Zohar ends, this is in general, like the first law of the Rambam, which explains there's a mitzvah to know there's a God in general, and then proceeds to reveal all the details necessary to know that. Finally revealing the work of, and then finally the Rambam brings out all the details through explaining what he calls Maisa Bereshis, the work of creation, and Maisa of the chariot, the work of the heavenly chariot with all the angels, and he explains all these levels in detail. Because to get the general thing of knowing God, you have to know all the details. The mitzvah of knowing Him contains many details, and the Rambam will explain them in the next parts of the book, the creation and the chariot. And that book is available in English, and you can find it on Chabad.org. You want Mashiach now. You guys have a song? You got a song, lady?
Yeah. You bet he does.
Sing us in, sing us in, sing us in.
Okay.
How do you like that siyum, Mendel?
That's a nice siyum to tell. Almost like something the Rebbe would have said.
Oh, that reminds me, I wanted to say a disclaimer. I always forget a lot of times. None of this stuff is mine. This is all from the Rebbe and the Holy Writings. Thank you.
Hashem
He joined with your people, and the angels all sing, oh glorious King,
Glorious King.
won't you please? He joined with your people, they made you a crown, won't you come back to town?
Come on back.
And please, he joined with your people. Oh, Tati, our king, you know it don't mean a thing unless you please. He joined with your people.
Remember, kids, Gezintahait.
That's right.